You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Wow! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
We believe in the American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag because we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. Never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can, we're Americans.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show on K98 Talk. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Conservative Curmudgeon Show right here on K98Talk.org, where we're having a little bit of technical difficulties tonight. So for tonight's broadcast, for those of you that are listening, please jump on Twitter, Facebook, let everybody know that they have to run and jump over to Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com. Search for the Conservative Curmudgeon Show, and there should be a live listen link that you can hit and enjoy the program. Or not enjoy the program, depending on who you are. If you just want to call and hate, that's fine too. Speaking of calling and liking or hating, the number is 408-681-8255. That's 408-681-8255. And as always, we can talk about whatever's on your mind. It doesn't have to be what's on my sheets. We've got a few topics we're going to hit on tonight. But before we get started, I just want to take a minute to remind everybody to tune in 2 hours after my show, Rick, you're on?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's right. America Off the Rails with the venerable Rowdy Rick Robinson. Pay homage. Good show. Tune in, listen, and learn. So anyway, what's going on? Well, I just learned that there was a huge explosion at a Mexican oil refinery. So get ready for gas prices to spike, everybody. Even though we don't get any of the oil that we refine here from Mexico, guess what? They're going to raise our gas prices. They can't stand it. They have to. So be prepared. Big story this week. The United States has agreed to deploy more than 200 additional troops to Iraq and send Apache helicopters for the first time to fight ISIS in Iraq. Now, this is the first major increase in U.S. forces in nearly a year. Didn't we talk about this when Obama sent the 457 quote-unquote advisory troops in? We know what the advisory troops are. These are special forces that are in frontline positions fortifying these Iraqi units. Fortifying is a nice way of saying leading and doing most of the fighting for. We're sending a couple hundred more over. We're sending an Apache squadron over. When will Obama admit that he just lied blatantly? Oh, that's right. He doesn't lie. He just evolves. So we got this uptick in American fighting forces and the decision to put them closer to the front lines. They say it's designed to help Iraqi forces as they move to retake the key northern city of Mosul. Now, speaking to reporters Monday in Baghdad, Defense Secretary Ash Carter said the decision to move U.S. advisors to the Iraqi brigade and battalion level will put them closer to the action, but he said they will have security forces with them and the U.S. will try to reduce the risks. This is DOD speak for crap, more crap. A senior U.S. official said that 8 Apache helicopters will be authorized to help the Iraqi forces when Iraqi leaders determine they need them. The official was not authorized to discuss the numbers publicly, so spoke on condition of anonymity. We know now that this was Ash Carter's undersecretary, which is fine. It doesn't really matter. Insider is insider. So last June, the Obama administration announced hundreds of troops would be deployed to help the Iraqis retake Ramadi, a goal they accomplished at the end of the year. Sort of, mostly. Of the additional troops announced Monday, most would be Army Special Forces. Oh, shocker. Who have been used throughout the anti-ISIS campaign to advise and assist the Iraqis, a.k.a. stand up and show them how to fight. The remainder would include some trainers, security forces for the advisors, and maintenance teams for the Apaches. The decisions reflect weeks of discussions with commanders and Iraqi leaders and a decision by President Obama to increase the authorized troop levels in Iraq by 217, or from 3,870 to 4,087. The advise and assist teams, God, I hate when they say that. That's just really such a misnomer. Made up about a dozen troops, each accompanied by security forces. They would embed with Iraqi brigades and battalions, likely putting them closer to the front lines and at greater risk from mortars and rocket fire. The U.S., said Carter, is on the same page with the Iraqi government in how to intensify the fight against the Islamic State. Folks, this means that they've agreed that more Americans need to go over there and die while this quote-unquote coalition does nothing. Look, I have no problem with the U.S. going over there, but let's go over there in force and let's kick some ass and then come home and be done with this. You know, Obama claims that he wanted to do things different than George Bush. Well, guess what? This is the same strategy, basically. It's a string-along strategy. If you really want to finish it, you throw the numbers game at them. You just absolutely beat them into submission or into dust, whichever comes first, and then you come home. And there's no need to send anybody back. Does it sound a little hardline? Maybe, okay? I'm from a generation of the first Gulf War. We didn't finish the job over there. I'm sorry. We did a great job for what we did, but we weren't let to finish. If we had finished, none of this would be going on. Well, take that back. There would probably still be an ISIS, but they wouldn't have had the foothold to gather like they did. And that, Mr. President, is your fault. That is not President Bush's fault. He did not pull them out. You did. You pulled them out when they were needed. And that's how ISIS took hold. So anyway, the proximity of this battlefront will allow the U.S. teams to provide more tactical combat advice as the Iraqi units move toward Mosul, the country's second largest city, still under ISIS control. Until now, U.S. advisors have worked with the Iraqis at the headquarters level, well back from the front lines. The Apache helicopters are considered to be a significant aid to any attack on Mosul. Americans will fly the helicopters, which provide air support to ground troops and carry precision weapons. Precious precision weapons. Yeah, we'll go there. Another new vulnerability for U.S. forces. Last December, Iraqis refused Apache helicopters for the battle to retake Ramadi, but this time officials said they believe the fast attack helicopters will add an important edge. Speaking to U.S. troops at the airport in Baghdad, Carter also said that the U.S. will send additional rocket-assisted artillery systems to Iraq. U.S. officials have also said the number of special operations forces in Syria would be increased at some point, but Carter did not mention that in his comments. Officials spoke on the condition of anonymity because they weren't authorized to discuss the matter publicly. So, yeah, there we go. We got people running around behind everybody's back screaming about what is and what isn't going to happen. So Carter's announcement Monday came after he met with Lieutenant General Sean McFarlane, the top U.S. commander for the Islamic State fight, as well as a number of Iraqi leaders, including Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi and Iraqi's Minister of Defense Khalid al-Obeidi. He also spoke by phone with the president of Iraq's autonomous Kurdish region, Masoud Barzani. Later, Carter announced to the troops that the U.S. aid will extend to the Kurdish Peshmerga forces fighting in northern Iraq. Carter said the U.S. has authorized sending up to $415 million to the Kurds over time. McFarlane told reporters that the money will be used in part to help feed the Peshmerga troops. U.S. military and defense officials also made it clear that winning back Mosul is critical, but will be challenging because the insurgents are dug in and have likely peppered the landscape with roadside bombs and other traps for any advancing military. A senior defense official told reporters traveling with Carter that while the Iraqi leaders have been reluctant to have a large number of U.S. troops in Iraq, they also need certain capabilities that only more American or coalition forces can provide. Iraqi leaders back the addition of more U.S. troops if their work is coordinated with Iraqis and directed toward the retaking of Mosul.
As part of an apology.
Pardon me. The official was not authorized to discuss the issue publicly, so again spoke on the condition of anonymity, blah, blah, blah. Iraq has been struggling with a political crisis as efforts to oust the Speaker of Parliament failed. Al-Abadi's efforts to get a new cabinet in place met resistance, and influential Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr issued a deadline giving Parliament 72 hours to vote in a new cabinet. At the same time, the cost of the war against ISIS, along with the plunge in the price of oil, which accounts for 95% of Iraq's revenues, have caused an economic crisis. Yet another reason that you'll see our oil prices surge sooner than later, I am sure. But these revenue droppings have caused have caused an economic crisis, adding fresh urgency to calls for reform. Iraqi officials predict a budget deficit of more than $30 billion this year. Do I feel bad for them? No. Not at all. I really, really don't. Yeah. So anyway, that's what's going on with Iraq. Obama's a liar. He said he was bringing troops home. Now he's sending more back over. Ash Carter was in Iraq, being all large in charge, feeling like the man. But we all know what happens when the phone rings for Ash Carter and it's Obama on the other end, right? That's exactly right. He screams like a girl. Anyway, so that's about all on that, really. Just something for you to know. We are sending more troops over. God bless our troops that continue to be there, and the ones that will be going, and the ones that will be relieving them and going later in the year, because I don't think this will be done. I don't know. I think we'll be lucky to have it done before the end of the year. I really do. And I can foresee more troops going in the future. Just my opinion, for what it's worth. All right, so moving along. Minimum wage. Yeah, it's not time for the other talk yet. We'll get to that, trust me. Why have California and New York State moved to implement a $15 per hour minimum wage? Well, they say it's to provide workers with a living wage. And while it is true that surviving on $8, $9, or even $10 an hour, particularly in expensive metropolitan areas like New York, Los Angeles, or San Francisco, is difficult, if not impossible. But raising the minimum wage is not going to provide a pathway out of poverty for workers. And lost in all the hoopla is that raising the minimum wage is not only a poverty trap, but really a disguised income redistribution. Jobs in the fast food and entry-level retail were never intended to be careers. Yes, for some, these jobs can provide a ladder to success and upward mobility by working up from the grill to the shift lead, to the manager, potentially the franchise owner. But that path is difficult and uncommon. The claim by minimum wage workers that they cannot afford to raise a family on $9 or $10 an hour is not really the salient point everyone should be debating. The real question is, why are they trying to raise a family with a minimum wage job when they are in their 30s or 40s? Certainly, societal issues like education, environment, and opportunity are key to answering this question. But raising the minimum wage for these jobs only encourages individuals to remain in them and not to seek improvement in training and education. Not to mention the self-responsibility aspect of it all. So increasing worker pay to $15 an hour creates this perpetual poverty trap for low-paid workers. Now, here's why. First, it removes incentives to better one's skills and become more productive. And there is a clear correlation between education and productivity. Economically speaking, workers and other production factors like land and capital earn the value of their respective revenue product. That's to say that firms pay returns to these factors relative to their contribution to revenue. Higher labor productivity results in higher wages, and higher rent for better land, and more interest for more capital, etc., etc., etc. It's really simple economics. Just raising the wages paid to workers without a proportionate increase in their productivity does not result in a sustainable equilibrium. Firms will seek to rebalance either by substituting the now relatively cheaper capital, automation, for labor, thus reducing employment, or by providing training for a few workers to become more productive and then letting many others go, which also reduces employment. Either way, the end result will be fewer remaining wage earners and more unemployed, low-skilled workers living in poverty. Does that register for anybody? I mean, McDonald's is running right now with 12 corporately owned restaurants. They're using kiosk touchscreen ordering boards where you can walk up to the board, customize your order, so you don't have to go to Burger King to get it your way. Now you can get it your way at McDonald's too. Hold the pickles, hold the lettuce, whatever. You can get it at McDonald's now on this touch board. Okay? And you just swipe your card, you pay, you move over to the counter. What you're going to see when you move over to the counter is you're going to see one person working the fries and probably the drive-thru. You're going to see one person working the counter, putting those meals together and getting them out to the customers that paid at the kiosks. And you're going to see a person working in the back at the grill. His job is going to be to feed burgers into the robot cooker, because that's the other thing they've implemented, is a robot cooker that can cook 350 patties per hour. All they need is somebody to drop the meat in and then wait at the other end and start making burgers when they come out. This really isn't that hard. You can run a whole McDonald's with 4, maybe 5 people, depending on how busy it is. Now, I don't know what it's like where you live, but the McDonald's here in my small town of about 8,500 people usually operates on a shift of about 10 people. At any given time, you can find about 10 workers in McDonald's. At extraordinarily busy times, you will find more. The service is horrific. As a matter of fact, it's so horrific that the last time I went was my last time that I will probably ever go into the McDonald's here. I walked in up to the counter, and the young lady behind the register at the counter, smacking her gum like a cow chewing cud, looked up at me, rolled her eyes, and went, "Yeah." Now, I don't know about you, but if you've ever been to Chick-fil-A, their service is a little bit better. So anyway, the second outcome is an unfortunate impact on prices. Most studies indicate that for fast food industries to maintain their profit margins while paying $15 an hour, they would need to raise prices roughly 35%. Meanwhile, a Gallup study shows that around 40% of people earning $20,000 per year or less eat at a fast food restaurant at least twice a week. This increases to roughly 50% for those earning up to $50,000 annually. The economic effects, as seen by those receiving the minimum wage increase, would be to also see a dramatic, actually an historic rise in inflation for most of the goods and services they purchase. Ultimately, it will come sooner rather than later. The new $15 per hour minimum wage workers will still be trapped in poverty because most of what they purchase will cost significantly more. However, the coming price increases promulgated by increased wages without increased productivity makes an even more profound outcome. Disguised income redistribution. Now, most pundits see the coming income redistribution something like this. First, minimum wage is increased. Then, prices rise as a consequence. And finally, consumers paying the higher prices are essentially transferring their incomes to the minimum wage worker, now earning a higher wage rate. This model would be essentially correct, but for the fact that a significant number of purchases made by minimum wage workers are to purchase goods and services provided by minimum wage workers. It's not an income transfer, but an income redistribution. It's not closing the perceived inequality gap. It's merely transferring income in a round-robin sort of way among minimum wage workers and some lower middle-class workers. Workers earning an increased minimum wage will spend it mostly on higher-priced items purchased from firms that employ minimum wage employees. You ever see the commercial about the 10-year-old working in the sweatshop to earn enough money to buy a pair of jeans made by a child laborer in the rainforest, and the cycle that goes on and on and on? This is it. Folks, this is it. And it's not in a third world nation. It's happening right here. The planned effect of increasing minimum wage workers' well-being through higher wages will be dramatically diluted by their spending of that increase on higher-priced goods. The outcome is a higher equilibrium of transactions measured by dollars and not by volume. If we're to assume that minimum wage workers essentially only survive by spending all of their income on necessities such as food, clothing, and shelter, then increasing their wages only to pay higher prices doesn't leave them any better off. But what about the existing higher than minimum wage workers? Workers who earn more than minimum wage will definitely see one and possibly two effects. If they earn marginally more than the current minimum wage, they will likely see pay increases, particularly if they earn more than the current minimum wage, but less than the new minimum wage, assuming their jobs still exist, of course. Likewise, if they currently earn just marginally more than $15 per hour, they should also see an income increase to prevent wage compression. This is the effect of, why should I be responsible for all this stuff for only $15.10 an hour, when for $15 an hour I can flip burgers? No, the less than and slightly greater than $15 per hour workers will see small pay increases, but also subsequently suffer price increases, leaving them economically in the same place. However, workers earning significantly more than the new $15 per hour minimum wage, say $20 or $25 more or per hour or more, will have an entirely different experience. They won't see pay increases to offset wage compression, and their current rate is far too high to require a pay raise to comply with the new minimum wage level. What they will see instead is that the same income, or they'll stay at the same income, but pay the higher prices. Essentially, they are the ones transferring their incomes to minimum wage workers by paying for inflated goods and services. Now, folks, it doesn't take a genius to figure this out. But this is the plan that the White House is pushing. This is the plan that Bernie Sanders is pushing. This is the plan that Hillary Clinton is pushing. Why are they pushing it? Well, they want the votes. They want the votes. Here's the difference, okay? Here's the difference. If Hillary wins the election, she's just as likely to turn around and screw the minimum wage workers as she is to give them the $15 per hour wage. She may kowtow to the corporations that donate heavily to her Clinton Family Foundation instead of, Joe Blow. Who cares? You donated $3 to my campaign. Thank you very little. This guy donated $3 million. Who do you think she's going to give it to? Bernie, on the other hand, Bernie is actually crazy enough to do it and want to do it. They don't understand the free market. They don't understand capitalism. And because they don't understand it, it scares them. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. As always, I will tell you to do your own homework on this. The economics are not hard. There are plenty of studies to support it. You can skew numbers any way you want to. I simply present numbers as I see them to be factual. You do your work, I'll do mine. We are at the bottom of the hour. It is time for a little commercial break to pay the bills. And when we come back, we're going to start talking about potty flap in North Carolina and Mississippi. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back in just a few.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry, or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rails. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge...
Oh, but ain't that America? For you and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
All right, welcome back. Well, you know, this is a tawdry topic, but one that really needs addressing. You know, so what gives with this North Carolina and Mississippi bathroom flap? We have performing artists such as Bruce Springsteen, Ringo Starr, Pearl Jam, and comedian Tracy Morgan canceling shows in these states over what they are calling discriminatory laws. Now, before we actually get into addressing the laws themselves, let's step back and take a look at this list of names again. And is anybody really going to miss any of these has-beens performing in their state? I mean, how long has it been since Springsteen or Pearl Jam had any new material make the airwaves? And as far as Ringo Starr, when has he ever had anything make the airwaves that was worth a damn to listen to? And really, I mean, come on, Tracy Morgan. Okay, yeah, he hosted the little show on Sci-Fi, and he was on Saturday Night Live. But really, the most notable thing Tracy Morgan has ever done was to be in a horrific car crash that almost took his life. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful that he lived. I don't wish death on anybody. But really, who the hell do these people think they are that they should just be able to dictate what is and isn't in these states? Okay? What are these so-called artists so miffed about? Well, here's what it boils down to. What they're miffed about is that less than 1% of the population is not able to use the public restroom of their choice instead of using the public restroom that matches the gender for which they're equipped to be. And if you don't get that, you need to dial me up at 408-681-8255 so I can explain it to you a little better. But these artists are so worried about these states' laws that they're canceling shows. Now, really, do I have a problem if they don't want to perform in these states? Hell no. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't spend my money to see any of these people on this list anyway. But what I think is happening here is that they're missing out on the bigger picture. What are the ramifications of them canceling these shows? Well, here it is. It's that the people that these arenas employ will not be working. That means ticket takers, ushers, security guards, and concessionaires, just to name a few, are people who work hard for what amounts to be not a lot of money. And they won't be getting paid at all because of these canceled shows. So I wonder how that balances out with the overall feeling in Hollywood and DC over the income equality gap that's going on currently, running through this election cycle. It's rampant, especially on the Democrat ticket. Now, when you do look at the bigger picture, which these artists seem to be missing, aren't the very people that these artists claim to be standing up for the most likely patrons of their so-called art? I mean, it would seem to me that the people they're punishing are the people that would be in line to support them. It's the very people that they allegedly are supporting. Now let's go back to that less than 1% figure I used just above. It is somewhat of a random number. The government does not have an official data store on the current transgender population in our country. There have, however, been 2 recent and prominent studies conducted to try to gauge the number of Americans that fall into the transgender population. Now, as we get into these numbers, it's important to note that this is strictly transgender, which is a subset of the larger LGBT community. Okay, so we're not counting the lesbians, gays, and bisexuals. These are just transgender. Okay, the first study was conducted by Benjamin Harris, an economist for the United States Census Bureau. His study approximated that 135,000 people in the U.S. are transgender. Now, that's probably a little off, okay? Even I know a little bit better than that just from seeing things. The second study was conducted by the Williams Institute, which is a liberal-minded think tank component of the University of California school system that studies law and public policy. They came up with a number of 700,000. So, in the interest of fair play, let's give them both the benefit of the doubt and split the difference. Okay? Okay, we're going to split the difference here. So that would equate to 415,250 people in the United States that are confused about the fact that they are a man or a woman and don't want to be. Okay? This breaks down, if you did an even spread across the board, to 8,350 transgender Americans in each of our 50 states. However, both studies have capitulated that states that have ridiculous laws allowing these confused people to use whichever bathroom they want have a much higher concentration of these people. Now, I'm sure this number could be off a little bit one way or the other, but really, what do you think the percentage of the population of North Carolina and Mississippi that are transgender really is? Does anybody out there believe it's 1% or higher? Or do you look at the conservative makeup, the historical conservative makeup of these 2 states and think that it has to be lower? Okay? We're just talking about North Carolina and Mississippi here. So with these particular states being considered, I'm confident enough that my educated estimate of lower is correct. And I'd be willing to put a paycheck against that. So here's my question to any quote-unquote performing artist is, why is it so damn important for these people to allow men dressing like women into the women's bathroom with little girls? What sounds sane about that? And exactly what right is it they're being denied by these common sense laws being in place? Since when did personal rights trump the government's duty to provide for public safety. This is exactly what these states are doing. They are providing for the public safety of 99.8+% of their populations. And what about that 99.8% of Americans that don't want peeping Toms in the women's bathroom? After all, these confused people still have the right to feel just as pretty or as butch as they want to feel. Nobody's stopping them. Just do it in the bathroom that matches the plumbing that's in your pants. Now, just as a side note, for those of you women who think you're a man, if you think that using the bathroom at a concert venue is somehow fun or adventurous or anything like that, you got another thing coming. Those are some of the most disgusting places that I've ever been. And I spent 10 years in the military. I've seen a lot of disgusting things. Hell, as a man, I find these type of public bathrooms disgusting for the most part. But taking the leap, speaking on behalf of males of the species, I don't want women in the men's room any more than most women don't want men in their restroom. And I just can't imagine why a woman would want to be in there to begin with. But does it stop at common sense? No, unfortunately it doesn't. Because here comes the White House. That's right. The PC police are now getting involved. So we've got the Obama administration mulling the idea of cutting North Carolina off from federal funding after they passed this law last month. Administration officials announced Friday they were looking into whether the Public Facilities Privacy and Security Act, overturning a Charlotte city ordinance allowing men to use women's restrooms and showers, should result in the federal government withholding funding for schools, highways, and housing to the tune of billions of dollars. Now think about that for a minute. Think long and hard about this, okay? You now have the White House threatening the state government of North Carolina to withhold money for their schools, their highways, and their public housing. Now, I'd be willing to venture that there are things that the federal government can do to make things a little uncomfortable for North Carolina. But, folks, the interstates that run through North Carolina are to be federally maintained. The federal government doesn't have a choice. They have to maintain the interstates. Okay? Now, can they hit North Carolina on, like, federal matching funds for state roads and things like that? Yes, they can. Most housing developments, most HUD, Housing and Urban Development, housing developments, or Section 8 housing as it was known at one time, or, whatever you want to call it, is federally funded. Is the federal government just going to tell these people that we've been spending money there, but because grandma can't go in the men's room, we're not going to spend any money there anymore. So all you people just suffer. I don't see that happening either. Here's what I see happening, though. Federal dollars to schools. I can see the federal government cutting funds for schools in North Carolina and Mississippi. Not all the way. No, not at first. At first, they'll just make a sizable cut. or they have to lay teachers off that provide services that are unique, like federally mandated services. Mostly special education type services. This is where I see Obama making his move. He's going to put the education of special needs children behind the need for cross-dressing men and women to use the other bathroom. You just watch. This is what's going to happen. Okay? The administration's review is sending a message to North Carolina that there could be consequences for its new law. Now, we're going to, let's see if I can find this here. I don't even know if I can, but I don't know. I can't find my sound effect. Oh, well. We're going to jump in the way, way back time machine here. We're going to go back a few weeks. The city of Charlotte passes an ordinance a few weeks ago that allowed transgender men and women to use whichever bathroom they felt most comfortable in, whichever bathroom they identified with no regard for the citizenry. So what happens is the statewide electorate made this huge outcry against the Charlotte Ordinance. And the State General Assembly got together, called a special session, and passed House Bill 2, HB 2, in a special session on March 23rd. They sent it to Governor Pat McCrory, who signed it into law the same day. In addition to repealing the Charlotte Ordinance, this new law limits municipalities' ability to enact laws with special protection based upon gender identity. It also mandates that all public educational and government organizations have restrooms and locker rooms designated by biological sex. Okay, let's pause here for a minute and let's look at this. Why is there a need for special ordinances for people to use the wrong bathroom? Why should 0.02% of the population be treated special? What if a non-transgender man just wants to use the women's bathroom? Shouldn't he have the same right if he feels comfortable walking in there and squatting down to take care of his business? And that's just how insane this is. It isn't about equality. It's about special treatment. They don't want equal rights. They want special rights. And then when they get them, they want to rub the 99+% face into it and say, you can't stop us. You will bake our cakes. You will let us use your bathrooms. It's ridiculous. And thank you, Pat McCrory and the North Carolina State Assembly for doing this. Thank you, and I hope beyond all hope that you weather the storm. I really do. So the first branch of the Obama administration to make the threats against the state of North Carolina was the Department of Transportation. Secretary Anthony Fox, and if that name sounds a little familiar to North Carolinians, there's a reason why, and we'll get there in just a second, said on March 29th that his office was looking at the legislation to determine if there would be a loss of federal transportation funding to North Carolina. The state receives about $1 billion a year from the Transportation Department. This money goes into such things as interstate maintenance, which affects a lot more than just the residents of North Carolina. But let's just say that we're talking about a few thousand jobs here in North Carolina that won't be funded. So that will increase the unemployment claims in North Carolina and therefore the amount of money that we pay to people not working. not to mention the damage to people who drive in North Carolina. Their vehicles are going to be beat to crap back and forth if the roads aren't maintained. So, I mean, really what this boils down to, it's just government coercion. That's all it is. And Fox went on to say, it's incredibly hard for me to watch what's happening here in North Carolina because I know fundamentally this isn't who we are. Now, Fox, the former mayor of Charlotte, said this while speaking there last month, but ultimately people have to remember that the people they elect make these decisions, and they've got to think about that moving forward. So basically his way of saying, you better put some Democrats in office or this could still happen. North Carolina, you have a long, difficult road ahead. You truly are a purple state that is trying to be converted both ways. Next up for the Obama administration, government crony number 2, Department of Education spokeswoman Dory Nolt. Now, for what she said, her name ought to be Nori Dolt, but I digress. She said last Friday that the agency was reviewing the North Carolina law to, quote, determine any potential impact on the state's federal education funding. She added, we will not hesitate to act if students' civil rights are being violated. You want to talk about violating a student's civil rights? Let's talk about 12, 13, and 14-year-old girls trying to shower after PE class, but there's a boy in the shower with them. How's that for violating rights? Dumbasses. Every one of these people, dumbasses. The Education Department gave $4.3 billion to North Carolina last year between the K-12 schools and colleges. Now, I want you to think about this because I'm betting that they receive considerably less than $4.3 billion in the next budget year. We'll have to try to keep an eye on this moving forward. The Department of Housing and Urban Development indicated that it was reviewing the law for possible revocation of federal funds as well, with department spokesman Cameron French confirming we're reviewing the effects of the law on HUD funding allocated for North Carolina. Because kicking people out of houses or denying them houses is what the federal government's all about, as long as they can pee in the wrong bathroom, right? While there's no recent example of the federal government using comparable pressure to quash a state law it views as discriminatory, federal agencies have applied pressure with the threat of lost funds on some California and Illinois municipal governments, pushing them to change policies to allow transgender students to use the restrooms of the opposite gender. The Obama administration joins the list of tons of corporations and agencies teaming with the homosexual lobby to punish North Carolina for acting with common sense to preserve the safety, privacy, and sanity of its majority of non-LGBT citizens. Businesses critical of this law include, among many others, Google, Microsoft, Barnes & Noble, Levi Strauss, Twitter, Facebook, Starbucks, Wells Fargo, Apple, and PepsiCo. That's right, Pepsi. In fact, Pepsi CEO Indra Nooyi sent a letter to Governor McCrory calling for consideration of rescinding the law when the General Assembly convenes again later this month. She said she was taken aback by the law and McCrory's opting to sign it so quickly. Nooyi said the measure is completely inconsistent with the way her company treats its workers and weakens efforts to advance North Carolina's long-term interests. Even the NCAA and the NBA have opposed the North Carolina law as well. The pile-on of North Carolina hasn't been limited to corporations, with the American Civil Liberties Union and the American Civil Liberties Union of North Carolina, Lambda Legal and Equality North Carolina, all filing suit to overturn the law. Numerous states and municipalities have banned all but essential travel to North Carolina. PayPal has said in a statement that it would not move forward with a planned expansion of its operation in Charlotte due to the law, claiming it perpetuates discrimination and violates the values and principles that are at the core of PayPal's mission and culture. See, I thought their mission was to make money. But North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Dan Forest issued this rebuttal the same day PayPal made their statement. If our action in keeping men out of women's bathrooms and showers protected the life of just one child or woman from being molested or assaulted, then it is worth it. North Carolina will never put a price tag on the value of our children. They are precious and priceless. If a corporation wanting to do business in North Carolina does not see the worth of our children in the same light, then I wish them well as they do their business somewhere else. Folks, it's the top of the hour. It's time to sign off. As always, I want to thank you for being here. I want to encourage you to do your homework on all these topics. There's so much more I wanted to talk about tonight, but as usual, I'm over-prepped and under-timed as it goes. So anyway, 2 hours, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Central. Is that right, Rick? Or am I?
No, you're right.
9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern. America Off the Rails with Rowdy Rick Robinson. And then tomorrow night, I don't even know. What do we got tomorrow night? We got what? We got Doc and Lou.
Yes, sir.
And then we have JD and Stacy after that. Prime time doesn't get any better than K98. So do yourself a favor. Be tuned in every night. As always, thank you for being here. If you like the show, tell a friend. If your friend likes the show, you probably need some new friends, but you and they will always be welcome right here with the Grouch. See you next week. God bless.
We believe in the American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag because we're proud and free, we're Americans. White and blue is our way of life. Never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.